listening to the Tarot Talk, only on the Parrot Encounters Network. We're broadcasting from the hills of Northern California, or at least I am. Tarot Tim is in the house with me, and he is in Dover, Delaware. Tim, how are you?
I'm wonderful. It's going to be a great show.
Yeah, it's so good to see you. I know we've taken, or we were saying it's been about 3 weeks since we were last on, so it's been way too long, but I definitely feel ready to go. So it's good. So I'm glad you're here to join me.
Yep, it's going to be interesting to say the least. Because I'm already feeling the energy.
Yeah, and we're talking about, well, Father's Day is coming up, so happy early Father's Day to the fathers out there. And we're kind of going to do the same thing that we did with our Mother's Day show, discussing that male energy and kind of traditional father role, father figures, and the father figures in the tarot. So I think that, where should we start, Tim? Should we start with the conversation that we were kind of having before the show about the major arcana father figures?
Sure.
Hey guys,
Okay.
Could you restart your cameras real quick? Please.
Yes.
Thanks.
Okay. How's that? Is that better?
We're getting there. Go ahead.
Okie dokie.
You got it?
Yep, we're good to go.
Okay. I can't see you, Tim. I can't see Tim, but okay. As long as you can see him. Okay.
Well, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Okay. Yeah, I can hear you. I just can't see you. But that's okay. All right. So we want to start off with maybe, I guess, the father figure of the tarot, really, which is the Emperor. He really comes, to my mind anyway, first and foremost when I think of those father figures. You have the Empress, who is essentially nature herself, and the Empress gives birth, brings forth life. And then you have her counterpart, or her partner, the Emperor, who's really that structure, I feel, who lends the structure to life. He's rules and society and tradition, definitely those, maybe a more traditional view of what a father is, but he definitely balances the Empress in that way. So, what are your thoughts on the Emperor, Tim?
Well, I kind of like I grabbed the Tarot of the Hidden Realm was one I happened to grab, and he's very much Odin, the all-knowing father.
All-knowing father.
Who kind of really does think he knows everything and all that, but, he definitely earns his knowledge and puts in his time, and he would definitely be a hands-on kind of dad.
Yeah, I think so, in the sense that he would, kind of be up in your business, know what you're up to, give you some structure. Yeah, and I think that the Emperor also, as that archetype, yes, definitely has power. The Emperor is about power and really the enforcer of rules. He's the judge, he's the punisher in a way, which is maybe like a kind of a cynical way of thinking of the Emperor, but that's kind of how I see him. It's and this is very, I guess, a traditional outlook on the role of the Emperor, but I feel like it just reminds me of, like when you're in trouble and your mom says, just you wait till your father gets home, you're going to be in big trouble now because, the Emperor's coming home and you better check yourself. And so that's kind of how I feel, the Emperor is. Although I have to say that growing up, my mom took on more of an Emperor, more of that traditional role and that archetype than my dad did. So I feel like for me, the roles were reversed and they weren't as gender specific, because my mom was definitely the one who made and enforced the rules, which I feel is very emperor father like. I would say my dad was more of the nurturing empress in some ways.
Yeah, that happens a lot, I think.
Hmm. Well, I think it's another example of how the roles and the archetypes in the tarot are not necessarily gender specific. They're not necessarily, and I think, and the archetype of the emperor as this traditional father figure is also very Western. I think, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Too, and I think today we actually we have a lot more single parents of both sexes who are raising kids, so those boundaries get crossed a lot.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. Across many cultures, many ways. Well, and a lot of people then are taking on both of those roles, yeah, as emperor and empress, and that's a lot. That's a lot for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Hmm. But yeah, I feel like that the emperor, yeah, he brings the structure and that kind of traditional dad role, and he's also, I feel, a teacher. I feel the emperor, because you'd mentioned that the emperor has kind of risen through the ranks, so he is knowledgeable in this way. He knows he knows what power is. Whether or not he uses it correctly is kind of up to him, and it'll see which way it goes, but he definitely knows at that point a lot, and so he becomes a teacher in a sense. And so that's another role, I think, of the father. At least when I was looking at Father's Day cards, a lot of them really reference the teacher part of being a father. Just teaching your kid things, not just rules and judgments, but also, yeah, teaching them life lessons, teaching them life skills. And so I feel like that's also very emperor.
Yeah. I think the emperor, his lessons, a lot of times, he gives you enough rope to hang yourself. He'd give you the little toys and tell you don't do this, but then he knows you are and he watches you and lets you hang yourself, and then you get the knowledge from firsthand. But he's got eyes everywhere, because the emperor's not a dad that you can sneak by on too much.
Oh, that's very true. He's very perceptive. He's very much all-seeing, omnipotent in a way. Yeah.
It goes right back into the Odin thing, because he had those Hunan and Hugin and Munin, the crows that were spies that watched everything for him and reported back to him. So, yeah, it was hard to sneak around.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, and the Emperor, at least, I'm using the Morgan Greer, because that's the first deck that I found in this mess that is my room. But anyway, it's interesting you say that, because he's got the eagle on his helmet.
Oh,
and
yeah.
he has the eagle down here, like the eagle eyes, He's definitely, like, sharp and looking out, strategizing, planning, definitely being the dad. Oh, there you are. I can see you now. Okay, good.
Oh, yeah.
Good. I was like, Tim, are you there? I can hear you, but I can't see you. What else was I going to say? Oh, I was going to say that, to me, the Emperor as a father figure is not as nurturing, especially emotionally nurturing, as the Empress. I mean, this is my perception, of course, but to me, the Emperor has always kind of felt like a very kind of closed-off figure. I mean, he has a lot of walls. I know that in many interpretations of him, he literally has walls around him. He's kind of in his fortress, in that he's not only protecting others, but he's also protecting himself in a way. So he can be very distant, I would think, in some ways, like an emotionally distant father, a brilliant teacher, a brilliant man, just so good at what he does in so many ways, a great provider, great protector, but he is closed, so it can be hard to reach him on some level, like on a personal level.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely doesn't let you in easily.
No. Well, even when you look at this archetype, he's very, he can be very stern. Yeah, stern, and just with the walls and even the armor. Yeah, he's not for many areas where he's vulnerable. But that being said, I would think that the family for the emperor and his children might be his one vulnerable place, you know? So, which is interesting. He might not let it show, but I feel
Right.
like that is his one, yeah, area where he's vulnerable. Yeah, I like this the Morgan Greer with the Emperor. I think it's a very nice interpretation. Let's see what other deck I have here with my.
This is, I also have the Robin Wood, which is a very,
Oh, see, I like that Emperor. He's very kind of like Santa Claus looking to me.
yeah, well, he's kind of, he's got the stern thing going, but then if you look really closely,
Yeah.
he's kind of got this smile on his face that's a little
Right.
confused, like, yeah, whatever, I understand what you're doing, been there, done that.
Yeah. Like he's got this little smile and kind of this little twinkle in his eyes. So he kind of looks like Santa Claus in that picture to me. He's not as severe looking as this guy, who's not even facing you head on. He's from the
Right.
side, you know? Yeah, because you only see one side of this emperor, maybe. And I think that for some people, if you've got an emperor dad, you only know him as the professional or as the judge or as the politician or as the, because he's never around. You only see one side of him, and you can't really, he's not approachable either, I think, when he's facing this way. So
No.
I definitely like the Robin Wood interpretation. It's a lot warmer, a lot more friendly, for sure.
Definitely.
So we also had, I know that the Hierophant, we were discussing this. I feel the Hierophant is somewhat relevant, but then you had also brought the Fool into the conversation. So let's talk about the Hierophant, because I see the Hierophant in the tarot as the spiritual father, or your spiritual father, or religious, because whereas the Emperor is social institution, I feel like the Hierophant's religious institution with maybe some spirituality in there also. To me, religion and spirituality are two very different things, but I feel like
Right.
it could be one and the same in some ways with the Hierophant. So I see him as a spiritual father, a spiritual teacher, but I know you had mentioned that you saw him as something different. So,
Well, when like I said, he's someone with some life experience, so he would be not a young father, maybe a father who's, like you said, he could be a spiritual father. I also feel like he could be a little bit distant and a little bit, I don't know if deadbeat's the right word for it. Maybe the father that's not there, like the father that's always at work, the father that's off on the crusades doing whatever, and
or he's off in the mountains on some spiritual retreat, and you never see him. He's like the hippy dippy father. Is this what you
it's
mean?
like the father that you hear about more than you see.
Okay.
That you get the stories about your father, oh, your father did this, your father did that. And it's definitely, I think, a father that would be hard to live up to. Like that father that kids, maybe it's the celebrity dad that the kid's always under the shadow
I can see that.
of someone that everyone knows and respects and everything, but that's not the kid's experience necessarily with this person.
So he's kind of like the father that's like this idol almost in maybe the way that a lot of religious leaders are kind of seen in that manner. Like, oh, this is it. This is him. He's not of this world. I can see that. Okay. Like,
As we're talking about that, and then it comes to mind someone like that people put on this pedestal. But then you find out, like, Jesse Jackson's got all these kids he fathered outside of the marriage and stuff that no one knew about. And it's, there's things at play there that, it's a hard role, I'm sure, for the male to live up to if they're in that role.
Well, and I think it's interesting for everybody, really, when you have these archetypes, where it's oh, it's dad, like my hero, and he is this idol. Whether or not he's a celebrity, he's still in your kid mind. This such a figure. And even the emperor you were mentioning, like the legend and lore that kind of surrounds some fathers. But it can be very interesting, I think, when you really the first time you realize that your father is human. That he's very human, and I think that it's definitely shatters some illusion that you might have surrounding that, and it can be challenging.
It's like finding out Santa Claus isn't real for the first time.
Yeah, yes, that's true. Yeah, the Santa Claus that. Yeah, exactly. Or even I think of just all those people with the Catholic Church who really looked up to this spiritual father in the priests, and then they discover that he's molesting people, for decades, and it's just that's really hard when you realize. Yeah.
That's actually interesting because I also grabbed the Robin Wood, and if you look very closely, it's the Catholic, but if you look closely, he's wearing an actual mask. His face, so you've seen what he projected to you to see, not who the real person was. So that would very much come in with like the people who abuse their power.
Right, the power that's abused, and I feel like that's the Emperor and the Hierophant and the Tarot are power. They are that power, and in bringing, I think, the rules and the structure also. They teach you about rules and structure and society, but then I feel like your challenge then is to go beyond that, to continue on down the tarot line, because it doesn't just stop with the Emperor or with the Hierophant, like you're not done being taught these lessons or absorbing them or learning to work within this framework. It's definitely about moving beyond it, developing your own personal code, and really seeing beyond the mask. I think that's kind of what you had to say was speaking to me in that way. It's like, are you going to accept that, or are you going to look beyond the mask and what's being offered to you, what's being projected? So I like that. So the father, in many ways, is teaches you, in many ways, and then it's going beyond his lessons. I think that's the challenge. But yes, when we see these archetypes as human, it can be kind of a tower moment, really, is what I'm thinking of. Yeah, like when you realize that he's, not what you thought. So, I mean, not that molesting people is human. That's not what I mean. But you know what I mean. Like when you, like when you really, when the illusion's gone, it can definitely be that tower moment. Mm-hmm.
And today, it seems like to me that a lot of fathers currently, because the role has definitely changed, because the role of marriage has changed. Because people oftentimes they used to, if you were pregnant, you were married. Or, you gave the baby up or whatever. But now, there are so many guys, and, guys get a bad rap, but some of it's their fault. Because they run around and have kids with 5 different women at the same time. I knew someone who had 3 women pregnant at the same time. And it's like, why would you even want to do that? And I think definitely that's the full energy coming in, where he's just wanting to have his fun, and, he doesn't care what happens, and, he's the smooth talker, and, all he cares about is procreating. He doesn't care about, the chaos and havoc that follow in his wake. And that's the dad you definitely see on weekends, maybe. Shows up and gives you some presents, and it's all wonderful. And or he makes plans to show up and whatever, and then just doesn't bother.
Yeah. See, the Fool to me is more of the deadbeat, absent father to me than the Hierophant. I think that the Hierophant is somewhat committed. I feel like the Hierophant tends to come up with
the Hierophant could be emotionally unavailable. but the Fool is just completely unavailable.
Oh, well, that's true. I like that, yeah. Yeah, the Fool, I can see the Fool as being the dad, yeah, like you said, who just pops in every now and then. And you have a hell of a time with him. Like, you have so much fun. He's like the dad who lets you do all the stuff you're not supposed to do. And you have fun with him. But then, yeah, he's just gone. He's gone in the night. And what are you left with?
And
Yeah.
I mean, that's the shadow side. I mean, there's also the dad, the Fool dad, who is, that's the one that the wives all say they have, you know, two children, their husband and their child, and he's the dad who's, you know, doing motocross with the kids and going camping and
Right.
cooking out and doing whatever, but the wife has to do all the work.
Right. Well, the Empress has to step up, and she's really matriarch and patriarch of the family in that sense. Yeah, and it's funny you should say that because I've seen that in readings where I'll have the woman, and I'm like, you know, I'm like, there's two like young male energies or figures here. Like, who are they? You got two sons, you know, and yeah, it's turned out where one of them's the husband. It's like your second kid, and she'll even say that. Yeah, he's my second kid. We kid around about it all the time, you know, stuff like that. So yeah, that's definitely that youthful energy, but it can be very fun, very playful, very creative. I think that the Fool as a father, that could be absent, but it can also be like the artist father, the very creative dad. Yeah, very out there.
The dad that embarrasses you with all your friends because he wants to hang out and tell jokes and whatever. It's like, oh God, Dad, go away. What are you doing?
Well, so like very King of Wands to me, that kind of dad who has to be the center of attention, like the King of Wands, you know, at a party. He's the guy who's like maybe has one too many beers and he's super loud and he's lighting the grill and sets his eyebrows on fire. Like, this is like true story. King of Wands, you know, being loud and misbehaving at the barbecue. That to me is definitely that Fool.
You know, it's so funny when you say that because, like, Mike, the King of Wands for this, he's very, you can see he's kind of beat up looking. But, and I don't even think he has kids, but it's very much, it feels like a Russell Brand kind of energy. You know?
Oh my gosh.
Where
I can
he's just-
imagine being around Russell Brand. I mean, he's funny, but it's that fire energy though. Like they have trouble burning on their own and maintaining it, so they're going to take some of your energy. Is the thing.
Yeah.
Like, to be the center, and if they can't get it off themselves, it's like the flame that needs the oxygen, you know. And so, yeah, they'll take your energy. They're exhausting people to be around. They're so fun. Don't get me wrong, so fun, but they can be very exhausting. And I think that the Fool energy, that happy-go-lucky, freedom-loving, let's do whatever, and the do whatever dad, you know, it's also very Wands and fire sign, that Sagittarius, happy-go-lucky, freedom-loving, independent. We'll worry about it tomorrow, kids. Or we'll put it on your mom, you know, like, yeah. You need a Queen of Swords, I think, to handle the King of Wands.
I think the King of Wands, too, oftentimes has multiple families. Like he has the first set of kids, and he wears the wife out and moves on, and then he has the second set later in life.
He's
You
got
know?
like,
And he's the better dad the second time around.
yeah. Well, he's tempered his energy a little bit, you know, like he's learned the second time around. Yeah, like you said. But you know what kind of dad I feel could have, like, this is like just coming to me, is the dad that has like the double life, you know, where he's got like kids in one state and a wife, he's got kids and another wife in another state or another country or whatever. That to me is like really King of Cups. Like it's very, there's a lot more below that calm surface, and
Yeah.
it's immediately apparent. Yeah, like the King of Cups father, I feel like that could be a shadow or a kind of a darker side of that King of Cups energy. Is on one level, he's very emotionally accessible to you, just with all that water, but he's also, there's a lot going on down there, you know? And also, I feel like, I don't know where you tend to see addiction or substance abuse issues, but for me, when I read, it tends to register as cups. Not necessarily like alcoholism specifically, but just as an indicator that there's some deep emotional like wounds and stuff going on. So I think that the King of Cups father could also be the one that has, like serious emotional and maybe substance abuse issues. That's very King of Cups father to me. I mean, he's got his good qualities, but it's like dark. But I feel like that's the King of Cups dad. Very.
I think he's also he's very good at hiding his addiction. You know, those closest to him may know it, but the rest of the world probably thinks he's this great, even-keeled, wonderful, dad, because he keeps that little lid on those emotions sometimes too, and the projection that he puts out there. My grandfather was very much, I think, King of Cups, and he was a working alcoholic. Never missed a day of work, and I mean, worked every day of his life really hard, but an hour after getting home, that was, turn it up.
Yeah. Well, see, and that's the thing about water, though. Like, water can take on any form. It can take on any shape, any form. And yeah, the Cups quartz, if we're looking at them as personality types in that way, then yeah, they can be whatever you want them to be. Like, they're this way, and they fit in perfectly with their work people. They fit in perfectly with the family. They fit in perfectly with the friends. And like you said, they're very good at masking things. There's a lot below the surface there. Yeah.
Well, that's because the water can be a liquid, a solid, a gas. It can take on any form that they want to put out there.
Yeah, it's very chameleon-like. Yeah. Well, yeah, which is why I think that it could be the dad that has multiple families that nobody knows about. They don't know about each other, and because he plays every role so perfectly, no matter where he is or what culture he's in. It's very interesting, I think, to think about the King of Cups in that way. I think on the positive side, this is definitely the emotionally, accessible dad, the one who really isn't afraid to be vulnerable and to kind of raise his children that way, which I feel is kind of rare. I don't know how you feel about it, but I think it's rare, because usually you have the emperor-esque attitude, like.
Uh-oh. We lost Rebecca.
Uh-oh.
It's dialing her back.
Yeah, well, to me, a lot of times the King of Cups, is, as far as an archetype, Mr. Cunningham from Happy Days is very much a Cups for me, because he was very accessible and very there for the kids and everything, but he definitely had his own opinions and ideas, and he just kind of shaped the way you figured out what was going on until you agreed with him, basically.
And Ward Cleaver.
Ward Cleaver would work. The dad from My Three Sons was very much. A lot of think that he's definitely like the 50s kind of dad that was out there for a long time. And he is definitely the one that be very traditional as far as the American way of life. Maybe not so much for the Eastern life.
Okay, are we back? Can you see me?
I can see you.
Mercury retrograde.
Yep. I was just continuing the discussion about the King of Cups, and I was saying that as far as Americans, he's like the 50s kind of dad. He's the Ward Cleaver, the Mr. Cunningham, the dad from My Three Sons, at least as far as the American experience.
Right.
Eastern would be completely a different thing, and I wouldn't even know who to say for an Eastern kind of dad. But yeah, he's definitely a dad that would teach you lessons, but in a kind way. He lets you crash and burn on your own and learn those things, and then he's there emotionally afterwards.
Who I was also feeling was kind of like very King of Cups as a father figure is kind of Mr. Rogers. Don't you think so? Like very kind and gentle and wise, like that wise father figure. A little out in some ways, but good, but very good.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely. The Cups is definitely more hands-on than like the
swords.
Than the swords.
Yeah.
The swords is he's just kind of the swords is the one that's the one. Wait till your dad gets home. You really don't want to have to deal with that.
Well, yeah, I think that the King of Swords, his fathering style is very much like the Emperor in a way. And again, this is traditional Western, society that we're talking about. That's maybe not as true now, but yeah, the King of Swords is all about structure and rules and very black and white thinking. And do you watch Game of Thrones at all?
I do.
Okay, so to me, Tywin Lannister is very King of Swords in his parenting, because he's like, you know what? I don't care about your personal happiness. End of story. You need to do what you need to do for the family, and not only that, but I'm not even going to give you a choice. Here's how you're going to do it. You're going to marry so and so, and this is what's going to happen. And he's always like a couple steps ahead of the game, and it's a game to him in a way. And they even reference that. Yeah, he sees his children as pawns, on this checkerboard, and that's the darker side of the King of Swords parenting. He has his good points, but
I think also with the King of Swords, which, well, I'm older than you, so this may not reference you, but Jock Ewing from the original Dallas was very much King of Swords, because he would, knock you on your butt if you didn't agree with him and go the way you're supposed to go.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Well,
King of Swords isn't. There's no fuzzy, huggy, worry about your feelings. It's
And there's no gray area, because he's very black and white in his thinking, or at least this is definitely the more negative traits of the King of Swords.
As far as celebrity, and I know he seems like, I don't know why he seems to me like he's a sword, but I think that in a lot of ways, Woody Allen has kind of been that way with his children and adopted children, because he's done some really creepy things that he doesn't really care about the fathering role and what other people think. And
well, he married his daughter, right?
His daughter, yeah.
To me, as King of Cups, creepy. But what he did to poor Mia Farrow is very King of Swords. Like, he really just cut her heart out, I would imagine. Yeah, that's very pragmatic. I'm going to do what I'm going to do, and I really don't care. Yeah, I can't really imagine. That's weird. I can't imagine having Woody Allen as a father. I don't know.
I don't like his movies, so.
Creeper. I like a couple of his movies. I liked Vicky Cristina Barcelona. I think that was what it was. But that was Cruise. That was my favorite Queen of Wands in that movie, though. She's so sexy. I love looking at her. So maybe that was more her and not so much Woody Allen. I don't know.
I'd given up on him long before that, so I haven't actually seen that.
Yeah, it was.
The last one I actually tried was Scenes from a While, and that's only because I adore Bette Midler, and even that movie was like, eh.
Oh, well, even Bette Midler in a Woody Allen movie didn't for you.
I'll tell you who was like King of Swords, and you may not remember this if you weren't around during the 80s. The dad in all those Twisted Sister videos that was screaming at the little boy. That's the King of Swords.
I think, I see that. Or the Get Off My Lawn kids,
Yeah.
Get off the lawn, kids. Turn down the music, kids. Your skirt's too short, Yeah. Yeah. You're not leaving the house wearing that, looking like that. Or like the Clueless dad. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like the dad.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. That's funny. Although, with the King of Swords dad, I think you might not even risk stepping on the lawn or leaving the house, in clear plastic clothing, because he's going to give you the smackdown. So maybe that's more, I don't know, like a King of Pentacles father, I think in some ways can also be very strict in that he's about tradition and rules. He's maybe a little more benevolent, though, in his thinking.
I think the King of Swords is one of those dads that you eventually have to stand your ground, put your foot down, and you may have to walk away to get your point across, or you do something crazy. Like the kid in Ferris Bueller that destroys the car because his dad was just the car. Everything was about this. That's very King of Swords, in that he just was, this is my world, and, you're kind of superfluous.
Well, see, that's the thing, and I think that you even see this, of course, when you do readings for people, you see the family, you see the family members at times, if it's really an issue, they register in the cards, and you see these archetypes and you see the family dynamics at work. And I think that what's hard for people is that when you have these swords like parents who are very black and white in their thinking, they're so used to setting the boundaries that it's hard, I think, for people to realize that it is permissible to set boundaries around the people who set the boundaries. I think
Right.
that's hard. But I agree that, yeah, the King of Swords, sometimes you just have to, set a boundary with him of your own and be very black and white about it. Mm-hmm.
I think the King of Pentacles would be like, that's the nurturing, sit on his knee, listen to stories. Just, he's the cool dad. you know?
Yeah,
Um,
he's fun, not like wild and crazy King of Wands fun, but yeah, very warm and very nurturing, like a teacher. The teacher, the wise one, very
I get
relatable.
that, like
And
John Connor from Roseanne. To me, he's very much a Pentacles kind of dad.
see
He
it.
gets his point across, but it's it's with love and humor and it's approachable.
Right, like it's friendly. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and comfortable. Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Brady, I think, was a little bit of the king of the Pentacles, because he provided for the family, but he was also there to help mom out and to give his little nuggets of wisdom to the kids, and he kind of always puts it in perspective, I think.
Mm-hmm. I think
You
so.
know.
I think the King of Pentacles is the most, perhaps the more balanced of the fathers. I know it's hard to compare them because they each have their own strengths and their own weaknesses, but to me, I feel like, the King of Pentacles is the most well-rounded, well-balanced one, I think.
Well, in a lot of decks, in my deck too, he's the one who he actually has the child with him and is looking lovingly at the child.
So he takes on kind of that role right along with the Empress. He's changing the diapers. He's, not the kid. He's, taking on that fatherly duties. Practical fatherly duties, even.
The guy from Mad About You after they had the baby, very much involved with the life, very much.
Yeah. Well, because the King of Pentacles really does enjoy the family, like the structure. The family is very important to the Pentacle suit, really. And I think that the swords are very much about like the family in like a title power kind of sense, lineage sense. But the Pentacles cherish family definitely for those, just the bonds, those bonds of community and.
And I know we're talking about fathers, but then also a card that really screams grandfather to me, which grandfathers typically are much more approachable and stuff because, you tend to go easier on the grandkids than you do the kids.
That's
but
true.
That's also, the Ten of Pentacles is very much involved with the family and with, and he's like a good grandpa. The one that, buys you stuff he shouldn't and
He's really you. The King of
yeah,
Pentacles.
let's just set up and watch TV and watch the scary movies that your parents say, don't let them do this.
Right. Yeah, I think the King of Pentacles, I agree, is that grandfatherly, wise man kind of figure. Well, there's a lot of wisdom with the Pentacle suit, I think, and a lot of spirituality. I think they're kind of older souls, the Pentacle suit. I think a King of Swords grandfather would be super scary. It would be kind of like, oh, that's your dad? Well, I'm your dad's dad, And I think that would be, I don't know, the King of Swords grandfather might be hard to handle. Everybody's afraid of him, including the King of Swords. But yeah, the King of Pentacles, the grandfather figure, very benevolent.
It's so funny because we're talking about males here, but what popped into my mind, and you brought up Game of Thrones earlier, is the old lady Tyrell.
Yes.
She's a masculine energy. I mean, and she killed Joffrey. She was really in on it. She's definitely one that you wouldn't want to cross.
No, not at all. And that to me is very Queen of Swords. I think she's playing the game. She's got it all set out. I think that's why I like her with Tywin when they're always, like talking and everything, because you can see them kind of working it out in their minds and how they're moving the pieces around the board. So she's definitely his counterpart in that she's very swords-like, but very cups also, in that she loves
she
and
is playing the game from a disadvantage of being a female, but she's really outthinking him whether he knows it or not.
Oh, right. Well,
she's 3 steps ahead.
Yeah, which is the cup's suit, I think. Yeah, it's hidden very well below the surface, and she's taking on any form, like we said, with water. And that could be why she's outthinking him. Tywin's very one-dimensional in a way. It's black and white with him, but she takes on that water. She could be anything. She could be loving grandmother. She can be,
She's definitely has a masculine type energy.
Right. And along with that, yes, I agree. Yeah. So it's very interesting. So I know, right? We'll see how things go with the show. But yeah, it's a great show. And I really love Game of Thrones for just the archetypes that are in that show, because you can really kind of match the tarot court cards and some of these archetypes with characters in that show, which is generally something that I love to do with the tarot. No matter what show you're watching, or reality TV is fun for that, because you can really see these energies at play and how these people are trying to get along.
Oh, I don't have the energy to watch reality TV very often.
Well, it's funny. I used to love it, and it's so true though that anymore sometimes it just really makes me anxious, and I'm just like, can't we all get along? But it is changing, because you can see these dynamics at play.
Yeah, bad behavior is not something to throw out there as something to live up to. It's like, you used to be embarrassed when you were 14 and you got pregnant, but now you got pregnant and don't even know who the father is, and it's a TV show.
Yeah. Well, if they say, remember when a sex tape was something that you were embarrassed about, and you, hid it in the darkest corners of your home, and now it's, how you get famous, Yeah.
You reboot your career if your career's failed with it, like Screech, which is the scariest tape ever.
That's King of Cups creepy. It's just not okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
that's a very swords-like move. A very swords-like move. Rebooting your career over supposedly a leaked, tape of whatever. It doesn't even have to be, sex, but I don't know.
And, I think which we kind of, I don't know how we jumped him, but the magician has some interesting energy as, the father, because I feel like there's what he actually does, and then there's the illusion that he shows the rest of the world. Because I think most people would think the magician is the best dad in the world, perfect dad, taking the boys out fishing every weekend, and he's the scoutmaster, and he's doing all this stuff, but he's beating the crap out of them when they're alone, and no one sees his real face, It's very much two-sided. And I feel like there's a veil there that he puts, it's shrouded for some reason. I don't know. And that's really funny, because that's not my father at all. My father was never laid a hand on me or anything, but
I can see that. Yeah, so what I hear you saying is that really the magician is power. And what way is he going to go with it, Yeah, is it going to be good? Is it going to be bad? And then he can conjure up whatever illusion, whatever veil he wants. I can see it, yeah.
That's what comes to mind, which I don't know why. It's like the Menendez brothers, that apparently the parents were horrible. Not that I'm excusing what they did, because they were horrible in their own right. But, that was the illusion of the perfect family until it imploded. Because everyone thought they were doing charity work, and they were out in the community, and they were this perfect Christmas card family every year. And then, you find out that nothing of that was true at all.
Right. So that illusion, and hiding very much out in the open. Mm-hmm. Well, I think in a positive sense, this is the father who like everything he does is magical. He's a man of many talents. You know, he's, I don't know, speaks 5 languages, and he's educated, and he can talk about anything. Maybe not even formally educated, but he just reads a lot. He knows about all kinds of stuff, and you know, he's good at whatever it is that he puts his mind to, and he'll, you know, build the kids the tree house in the backyard, and it just appears overnight, and it looks effortless. Like, I think that's the positive way of looking at the magician. To me, I think for more so than the other cards that we've discussed, the magician to me is very, it really has no gender. I know in a lot of decks it's portrayed as male, but to me, I even have trouble in a way of thinking of the magician as like a fatherly figure, because he's so, to me, he has no gender. Same like with the high priestess in a way. Like it's more about energy. Does that make sense? Or is it opposite? Yeah. Not necessarily Western gender specific, but because you do have that yin yang, that balance. Do you see what I'm saying? But I feel like they're interchangeable in a way.
As you're saying that, what I'm picturing is Chandler's dad on Friends, who was played by Kathleen Turner as a drag queen. So it was very much, you know, it was his dad, but his dad that, you know, slept with men and wore dresses. So it was a very odd dynamic, but they made it work. And then the mother was very Queen of Swords, so it definitely was that opposite thing going on.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can see the gender neutral thing.
Yeah, to me, the magician is just so gender neutral. Well, I mean, I had mentioned the high priestess but I mean, to me, that is very feminine energy. And I guess I just see the magician as, yeah, almost like he has no gender or no, I don't know. I just have trouble seeing him as a father figure, I guess. You can see the fool more than I can the magician.
Well, maybe the magician, in some ways or forms, could be the guy who's kind of raising the kids by himself. So he is taking on that feminine, mothering energy. For some reason, My Two Dads is popping into mind. With the two guys raising the little girl.
Yeah, I like that. I guess for me, I just see the magician as such pure force. Maybe that's it. Like, to me, the magician is source, and it's just pure, just energy. It's almost, I mean, he's got the 4 aces on his table, so it's not only, because the aces are that pure, raw energy. So this is the magician who is even beyond that, because he can wield all of this energy, so he's even, like, beyond the idea of pure energy. I don't know. Like, to me, it's just very, I have trouble thinking of him as kind of a human archetype, I guess. It's a father.
So he's the guy who put himself through college at the sperm bank, and he's got 15,000 kids out there that he's never met.
I guess that would be very magician. Yeah.
He's creative.
But that to me is also very cool. Like, I don't know. Yeah. It's like very cool. Isn't there a movie that came out recently also that was about?
Yeah. I think like Vince Vaughn was in it or something. I haven't seen it.
Yeah, I haven't seen it either. But yeah. Huh.
Yeah, I remember it.
It seems, yeah. I don't know. Or the magician. Yeah, the emperor. The magician could be like the politician father. He's like who is he really? You know, I think at least with the emperor, as emotionally inaccessible a father as that would be, you would still kind of know who he is and like who he isn't. But I think the magician father, you really don't know like who he is, even if he's around. You don't know, and he likes it that way. You know, he doesn't like people to know what he's about. He's everything. So yeah, I think in that way, magician could be the father.
Well, and I mean, we tend to, you know, you want to focus on the good dads and, you know, the dads that are there and that are positive in their kids. I think when you get into the bad dads and the dads that are, into substance abuse and abusing the kids and all that. I think the devil can very much have that fathering energy going on, but it's definitely not the nurturing, nice kind of dad.
Right.
It's the dark side of fatherhood.
Well, and I think that the devil in many ways mirrors the Hierophant, because you have Hierophant as key 5, Arcana 5, and then the devil as Arcana 15. In many ways, they do mirror each other. The Hierophant, your spiritual father, but then the flip dark side of that is, the devil, the father whose lessons you probably don't want to follow.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very, again, there's that illusion. Well, because after the devil comes the tower, once you kind of see, I guess, that figure for what he is, it's a very life-changing experience.
Yeah, that's, in a lot of ways, as bad as that archetype kind of thing is for father, and unfortunately there's a lot of that happens. I don't know why bad boys are attractive, but apparently they are. That's a challenge as a child, but some of the best children are forged in that way because they rise above it and become more than the father.
Well, and I think that goes back to speaking of that in kind of a micro way, but even in a macro way, like the father figure as an archetype, this is what you're presented with, so what are you going to do with it? Are you going to move beyond it? Are you going to be just like him and accept his rules, whatever they are? You know what I'm saying? Like, he might be a fully functional, successful member of the family, but still, you still got to move beyond him and his care, and develop your own kind of personal code. And so, I forget where I was going with this because I was rambling. But I think you were saying that, moving beyond that figure.
I think, and of course we all come from our own experiences and our own existence, and, for people that don't know me, I was orphaned very young. By 10, my parents were both dead, and I was living with my grandparents, and my grandfather was an alcoholic. Functioning alcoholic. I wasn't abused. He never missed a day of work, whatever. But it was not pleasant. So that I learned to get very strong. I don't drink or do drugs or smoke cigarettes or do anything because I refuse to be what he was.
Right.
And, you rise above it, and I'm not a popular view, but I'm sorry. Once you hit 18 and you're out on your own, stop blaming your parents for your bad relationships, for everything that happened. If you're 45 and, my mommy doesn't love me and that's why I can't have a relationship, suck it up, Buttercup.
No, I think it's true, and I feel much the same way because, like I said, I've been very open about my own experiences in a way, just with therapy and everything. But I can't keep blaming, I should say, my folks for whatever, because it's not about them. It's me and my stuff, and it's my problem, because I'm grown up, I'm grown now. So that's true. And moving beyond that is the challenge, I think, of the father-mother archetypes in general, is moving beyond them, no matter what they are. Maybe they're great parents, but you're still moving beyond that and developing yourself. You're moving beyond those.
You've talked about my affinity for the Fool before, quite a bit.
Right. And
part of that is I didn't get to have a childhood. Because, I was emancipated at 16, living on my own. And when I got to a point where I could start enjoying the simple, fun, happy things, that's what I choose to focus on. And it's not the dark side of the Fool where I'm an airhead and I don't look before I leap. I just know that Spirit watches over me and I can trust that.
Well, that's the faith that the Fool has, represents, is that faith.
It really lets me be very brave because I know even if I fall flat on my face, I'm going to be better off than I was when I jumped.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I like living that way.
Well, that's the faith of the fool. There's a tremendous, I mean, there's folly with the fool, but there's also a tremendous amount of faith and trust in source, really, you know, that you're fine and you're going to work with it and move beyond it. Well, and I think that, and I wanted to go back to kind of what you were saying about just blaming the father for whatever. But in a way, my feeling is that that's your, like, the crappy father and equal the good father and also the crappy father. That's like a piece of your cosmic design. Are you going to let it run and ruin your life, or are you going to move beyond it? Yeah.
And well, I don't have kids, and I'm, you know, 99.999% sure I'll never have kids, because
at least nobody's come forward, or not.
You know, unless I get a surrogate or whatever, you know, it's not happening. However,
let's have a tarot read, Tim. Let's have a little.
For some reason, always have children in my life, and it always of that, you know, age when they're impressionable and stuff, and I'm Uncle Tim and godfather to so many kids, it's ridiculous. It's like a tribe.
Right.
But I'm the one who goes to the reptile shows and the powwows and the pagan festivals and the movies and takes them out for weird food that their family would never think of, and, you know, so I like to be the one who shows them unusual experiences they wouldn't necessarily get the other way.
So see, that to me is definitely the father. So you're taking on the fatherly role as teacher, as wise one, as...
You're saying I'm the Hierophant.
Well, to me, I know you have your issues with the Hierophant, but to me, I mean, I don't have issues with the Hierophant personally. Like, my issues are with other cards, but I do see the Hierophant as that spiritual teacher, the one who, like, nurtures you and helps you grow spiritually and gives you experiences and gifts and really teaches you something on a very deep level. And it's interesting. I'm glad that you brought up the role that you serve to others in kind of this fatherly way, because it doesn't have to be that you've fathered a kid, because, you know, you've said before, just because you father them doesn't mean you're a father. No, yeah.
Yeah. I think my role, it winds up being more of like the shamanic type person would have been to the tribe, who was kind of, you know,
well, and many...
Not even kids. I wind up being like the first person people do so many, I can't even name the odd things we do, you know, because it's like I'm open to anything. So, yeah, okay, let's go to the fire walk. Let's go to the sweat lodge. Let's go, you know, I'm trying to talk people into going zip lining now. But, yeah.
Well, and I think that, I mean, in a lot of tarot decks, the Hierophant is the shaman. Like, he's represented by a shaman, wise one, whatever you want to call him. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I feel like in many ways that's you. That speaks to you. You're this role model. Yeah, I feel like the Hierophant's a role model. You put him up on a pedestal maybe, and so that's why it's hard when you discover he's human, but at the same time you want to be like him. You want to grow and learn from him. You want him to be your mentor. So I think that's great.
Yeah, the pedestals never work for me. You know, I'm the one who'll come along and push you off. Of course, I'll just like jump off into the mud. I don't care.
You won't be standing there on it. But you hear what I'm saying, you know, like you're a role model in the sense that I feel the Hierophant is the role model. Yeah, it's great. Yeah, it can be great. So, well, that's actually all we've got for time, but that was a great show. We really discussed all kinds of things. Yeah, good. Well, next week we have... I'm sorry, what?
Quickest hour in history.
What? I know, it went by so fast. Well, we were building it all up, right? The last few weeks. Yeah, it was good. All right, so next week, next Monday the 16th, we have Michael Brazel on the show. Michael is pretty well known in the metaphysical world. He has his own blog talk radio show, The Michael Brazel Show. I met him at the Between the Worlds conference on the East Coast some time ago, and he's just great. He's definitely a spiritual like a modern spiritual leader, and I really think you're going to enjoy his insights. So we're going to be here discussing the Star Tarot card and spirituality. So be sure to join us next week. And Tim, how can the viewers get in touch with you?
Well, you can find me on Facebook at Timothy's Tarot, or if you're in the Dover, Delaware area, I do readings out of Bell Book and Candle. The number's 302-678-4545.
Right. Well, it's so great to see you. Thank you for joining me as always.
Oh, it's always a blast.
Yeah, it was good. And I'm your host, Rebecca Brown. You can get in touch with me by emailing the show, the Tarot Talk Show at gmail.com. And also be sure to check out my blog, 365daysoftarot.com. That's most of my tarot work is up on there. So, and you can listen to all of our archived shows on thetarottalk.com and see our upcoming guests, guest bios, and all kinds of stuff on the show website. So give us a like on Facebook, and we'll see you next week on the Tarot Talk Show on Pair Encounters Network. Same time, same place. So mote it be.
So mote it be.